Welcome to all our aspiring entrepreneurs out there. In our latest video from my finance partner, we're going to be chatting about your business, and whether you want to go it alone or whether you should be bringing a partner in. So before we get into whether you should have a partner or not, we're going to touch on what partners can look like in your business. You could have an operational partner, i.e. somebody who's going to be working in the business with you on a daily or weekly basis. Or you might be considering bringing in an investor, whom we often hear from business owners, or a silent partner. So very simply for us, what we see is the difference between the two. Generally, your silent partner or your investor is somebody that you're going to be looking to for money to help fund either the growth of your business or the initial capital that you need to get the business going. Operational partners, that's generally a partner. Quite often we find friends that go into business together, and they both see themselves working in the business together and taking it forward. So I think very, very important before you get into a partnership with everybody is that you need to understand the difference between the director relationship and the shareholder relationship that you're going to have in this business. We so often see a muddling of these two waters, and people seeing them as one and the same. They most certainly are not. Very, very simply, your role in the business as a shareholder is to finance the business. Okay? Anybody coming in as a shareholder must have the ability to finance the needs of the business. If you take that approach and keep it and view it as simple as that, your relationship becomes very, very easy to manage. In return for financing the business and putting your capital or your money at risk, the shareholders could potentially down the line get to share in dividends from the business as it makes profit. As a director, you're performing a role in the business, an operational role in the business. You're doing something in the business. Maybe it's looking after the manufacturing operation, sales, whatever it may be, and you're going to be paid a salary for that. That's why, like I say, it's very, very important to make sure you get the difference between the director relationship and the shareholder relationship the same. So when you're bringing a partner into the business, then what does it mean? What is your partner actually going to get, whether as a shareholder? Well, quite simply, what you're going to get out of the business is you're going to get a dividend. You may complicate things a bit or decide to take your profit share or your dividend out in the form of a salary somewhere down the line, but I think it's very, very important that you go in with the mindset that your return out of the business as a shareholder is a share of the profits of the business in the form of a dividend. This will avoid any fights down the line around remuneration, what people have or haven't been paid out of the business. Okay, so let's work on the assumption that you have decided to take a partner on and you do want to bring somebody into the business. What are the key things that you need to consider and work out between the two of you before you decide, right, this is it, we're in, we're going to go into business together and we're going to have a shareholding in the business? The first point, and I've raised this and I want to come back to it, is you need to understand the financial position of the partners at the table. As I said earlier in this video, the main role of the shareholder is to fund the business. If you have partners at the table who cannot fund the needs of the business, you need to have an agreement up front that says, guys, this is what's going to happen with funding. It may be that one of you as the partners is going to advance a sum of money for your agreed share in the business, let's say R1 million, and you will get 30% of the business. And then after that, what happens? If there's additional funding that needs to come into the business and the partners around the table aren't able to contribute in their shareholding percentages, you could then land up with fighting starting to happen at the table. Okay? Another thing and vital to consider right at the start of the relationship is why are you in here as a partner? What is it that you're looking to get out of the business? Are you looking to build the business and then sell it? Who are we going to sell it to? Are you here to create a legacy? And I think for me this is vital, because sometimes you will see an investor being approached to put money into the business. That investor is putting the money in and then expecting to exit somewhere down the line, and then we land up with a situation that there isn't the means or the ability to exit that investor. Then we've got an unhealthy position sitting at the table where there's a partner who doesn't want to be involved in the business on an ongoing basis or a long-term basis, but his fellow partners at the table are there to build a legacy and are there to work for the next 20 years, but now no longer want the other partner involved, and he or she, to be honest, doesn't want to be involved. So at the start, make sure you're both aligned in terms of what the strategy is around the business. Are you both there to build a business and then sell it on to somebody else? Or is one of you looking to build a legacy? Or is one of you looking to build a business that you will continue to work in for an extended period of time? If that is misaligned with what your investor wants and or your financial backing partner wants, you need to make sure upfront that you guys have worked through that, because maybe that's not the right partner for you at that particular point in time. Another key element, and probably one of the most important to unpack, is how are each of the partners going to receive some sort of compensation return out of this business. As I said earlier, as a shareholder, your return is a dividend. It's a share of the profits. That's it. As a operational partner working in the business, you have the right to be paid a salary. Because if it wasn't you in the business and somebody else was doing that job, you would be paying them a salary. So it's very, very key that as partners at the start of your relationship, there is an understanding in terms of how is someone going to be remunerated if they are working in the business. And then lastly, where there are loans being paid into the business to help fund the business, etc., make sure that everybody is aligned around what is going to happen with those loans. Is interest going to be earned on those loans, and how long will it take before those loans need to be paid back? Remember, the shareholder's job is not just to keep funding and not to get a return potentially on his funding and wait as long as needs to be in order for the business to pay him back. Up front, you need to be working to a goal to pay back those loans. So often we sit with people who say that somebody has put money into the business at a point in time when they needed it, they've repaid the loan, and now they've got a partner at the table that they had to share the profits in. The reality of the situation is that without that money having come into the business the 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, the business wouldn't be where it is today. And the partner who put that money in on loan took a risk saying, I'm going to gamble with this R1,000,000 that I'm going to put into the business for you, that you guys will be able to pay it back to me, and that the business will then make profits going forward. And therefore, that partner has an entitlement to a return of the profits. Should you no longer want to share the profits with him or her, then you would just need to buy them out. Lastly, very important to consider is what happens with the shares of the business. In the event of certain things happening, what are the rules around buying and selling of those shares? Can a partner just over a breakfast meeting decide that he or she is going to sell their shares to somebody else? That's not what anybody wants. You need to document and record the process around which shares are sold. Another key element to look at is what happens if a partner dies or suddenly becomes disabled. Are they forced to sell, or are you happy that you continue to hold, that their family or their estate continues to hold their shares? I think a very key and important consideration for me is who are you in partnership? Because quite often it's the personality at the table that you've had the negotiations and discussions with. So if that person wants to move their equity on, for example, they do pass away, do you now want to be in business with their spouse? Or do you want to be in business with one of their children who's going to take over? If your answer to these questions are no, you need to have agreements up front that say, guys, if you are exiting and are no longer here, you're going overseas, you're emigrating, unfortunately you pass away, whatever the case may be, your shares have to come onto the table and they have to be bought. Very, very important try and agree a valuation formula up front. It's just like a divorce. Rather agree the rules up front when we're talking and we're happy, as opposed to you're in a fight and a partner is going to be exiting the business and now you're arguing around how you're going to value the business. We've sat in numerous discussions trying to help and negotiate exits for partners, and what I quite often hear is, well, guys, what's the value? And I'm told it depends whether I'm buying or selling. And I think for me, it may sound a bit cliché, but that is exactly what lands up happening. There's a disconnect between the person looking or needing to buy and the person looking or needing to sell. And with a valuation formula in place at the start of the relationship where everybody's still mates and having beers together, you've got something that you can reference back to say, look, guys, when we were talking and we weren't potentially fighting, this was the basis on which we said we would value the business. We have a starting point. Now let's talk around the starting point. So that's it from us in terms of businesses and whether to go it alone or consider having a partner. If you would like to have a discussion with us and unpack this in a lot more detail, we would welcome that. It is something we are incredibly passionate about in terms of helping partners, setting up their structures, and most importantly, getting the relationship between themselves solid so that there are no issues down the line. So if you'd like to just have a chat and more detail, please look us up and get in contact with us, and we'll gladly set up a consultation with you.